oh, some people have exposure to a significant amount of toxins, and that exposure actually starts to affect how they heal. And so I started going down this rabbit hole of like, where are all the toxins coming from? And that got really scary really quick. And one of the things that emerged out of that initial discovery was that our mattresses were off-gassing. Dr. Mindy here.
Your body is in a war zone.
Different parts of the brain get activated depending upon how stressed you are.
When you look at it from that inflammatory.
That's interesting. I mean, that has some merit to it for sure.
And you can't control everything.
I'd say.
And what about a woman who is not pregnant, but she's aiming?
Okay, Jack, I'm really excited to sit with you and dive into everything we need to know about a mattress. So thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. I'm so grateful to be a part of it. So thanks for the invite.
So I'm going to go way back about 10 years ago. I got into doing detox in my clinic. And part of why I got into doing detox in my clinic was because I started to see that certain people were not getting well as quickly as other people. And I couldn't figure out what like the through line was until I started to look at, oh, some people have exposure to a significant amount of toxins, and that exposure actually starts to affect how they heal. And so I started going down this rabbit hole of like, where are all the toxins coming from? And that got really scary really quick. And one of the things that emerged out of that initial discovery was that our mattresses were off-gassing. Our mattresses were holding on to mold. Our mattresses had toxins in them, and we spend so much time on our mattress. It's so challenging, and one of the first things you want to detox or you want to fix and get out of your house. So through a toxic lens, can you talk to us a little bit about what's the problem with just walking into Sleep Train? I have nothing against that mattress store, but it is local to me. And just buying a mattress because it feels comfortable. What do we need to think about from a toxic standpoint?
Well, yeah, definitely great question, and kind of dates back to my experience 25 years ago. How I got into this was my dad was diagnosed with cancer, and he was dealing with a whole lot of environmental reactions and overreactions. And one of them was in the sleep environment. And as we started to kind of figure out what that was, we actually realized that the one element in your home that probably emits the most toxins is the mattress. And more so, at that time I was in Canada, and now I'm in the US, but in the US, there are FR regulations that force manufacturers to put a higher load of toxins to make it a fire barrier. But when I had realized that those toxins that were emitting out of the mattress and what that does to slow down his recovery, what that did to have an overreaction from his body, getting into hives, respiratory issues, it was easy to see when someone is ill, how the body is reacting and overreacting to that.
Well said. Yes.
It's very difficult for a healthy person because we all think we're invincible. We're not noticing it. We're not realizing it. As I dug deep into this and developing the essential material specifically for that one purpose of eliminating toxins, I had realized that it wasn't just enough to be organic. And that would be, if we're just addressing the issue of toxins, yes, an organic mattress does the job. But I'm sure as we'll dig a little deeper in, just organic is just one of the elements that you need from a mattress. But absolutely, when we're talking about toxins, one, it makes your again, speaking to about a healthy person who doesn't have intolerances and overreactions to chemicals, for the ordinary person going to sleep in a toxic environment, on a toxic bed, you're overworking your central nervous system. You're keeping it active, so it's not. Keeps you out of the slow wave cycles, which heal the body, heal the mind. So there's so much going on that we need during sleep that toxins prevent us from getting deep into that. And that's scratching the surface. That's the obvious stuff, but it impacts our hormones. It impacts so much of everything. And when you invited me to be on the podcast, it was actually kind of interesting because I started to look at some of our female athletes that we work with, some of the retired ones, and what they're going through when they get into their hormone change, right? In premenopausal and all that. So, and I'm looking at this and I realize that everything that I've been designing and building for Essentia, it's, how can I explain it? Men and women are obviously different. And a lot of the things that I've done for the change for general sleep, the only difference between men and women truly when it comes to sleep is that some of these points are so much more important because of the life changes of women, because of so again, it's a little bit of what helps women will ultimately good for men, but so much more relevant to women. And that was one of the things I've realized before coming to the show here. Take it for granted when I'm speaking one-on-one with an athlete. But, when we're talking about a whole category, a whole audience, it's interesting how that came to mind.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because toxins do affect women a lot more. And part of that is because of their endocrine disruptors. So, if you have an off-gassing on a mattress of chemicals, those chemicals might actually be like estrogen mimickers that go into a female body while she's sleeping. That body thinks it's estrogen, but it can't use estrogen the same way as its real estrogen. So then it throws off her estrogen levels, which is actually really detrimental for a menopausal woman who's like holding on to every little bit of estrogen she possibly could have. So do we know, just so I can kind of help people and guide people into understanding the toxins in mattresses, do we have like a category of like, hey, these are the toxins you're going to want to stay away from when you're shopping for a mattress?
So the chemical lists are really long. I'll tell you the consumer product to avoid. So the consumer product to avoid is you'll avoid polyurethane. Polyurethane being what almost all regular synthetic mattresses on the market are made of. That's a petrochemical foam. In a mattress itself, on the surface levels, their densities are higher, so their concentration and toxin load is that much stronger, and it's off-gassing that much more. So the polyurethane would be the primary culprit for releasing the toxins. Immediately after that are the FR barriers and the FR chemicals that are added in, typically either to the foam itself or to the cover. So the textiles become a fire barrier, and they have chemical treatments for that as well. Typically, you'll have polyester, the polyester shell with fire barrier liquids in it, and basically beneath that is the polyurethane. That is your primary products to avoid. So you want to transition from going from polyester to an organic cotton. You want to not put in any of you want to make sure there's that beautiful lofty pillow type look that you get on a mattress that looks so nice. Well, they put that in for softening, because if you don't have the optimal materials underneath, they need to add the cushioning on top. But that cushioning is fiber batting. That fiber batting becomes a nesting ground for allergens. Those are chemically treated, which adds more toxic load to your mattress. So, when there's a consequence to everything you're putting in there. So right now, if you go from top to bottom, you've got your fabric laced with FR chemicals. You got your fiber, which is now laced with cleaning detergents and chemicals to keep them clean. Then you've got your polyurethane underneath. And then from an entry level, you've got your spring case underneath, which typically is inert. So it whether you have a organic or non-organic product, a spring doesn't affect any of the toxic load. However, the springs are not as durable, do not give the same support, but ultimately become kind of like disruptors with EMFs, which is a whole other topic as well. So ultimately, you want to go with a full organic foam product. At Essentia, that's all we've ever focused on, has been working the formulas of latex to make them behave as we need for eliminating motion transfer, pressure redistribution. All those things can be handled in proper foam formulation. Again, organic foam formulation, and avoiding those main materials is what you need to do.
Is it a situation like, I know when I go to my farmer's market and I ask them, have you sprayed your chemicals on the food? And are you certified organic? Many of them will say, well, we are organic, but we just didn't go through the process to become certified organic. When I walk into a mattress store, is there regulation around what's organic and what's not? Or can I just assume if they say it's organic that they mean it?
So no, they've got to be certified Galls and Gotts organic. So the brand that you're buying, so if you're buying mattress A, the certification needs to be in the name of that brand. The reason I'm saying that, so you've got Galls and Gotts certifications, is there's so much fake greenwashing going on. So what many retailers will do and some brands will do, they'll piggyback on one of their suppliers' certifications. So for example, if they were buying, and we don't sell to any of those people, so that's not an issue with us, but technically if someone was buying one layer of foam from us, and they would then say that it's certified Galls and Gotts organic, as you can see by Essentia certifications. But if they've added that, if they've encased that in polyester, fiber-filled, FR treated, and below our foam, maybe put in a polyurethane foam for cost, bringing down costs, they can bury that organic product to being something that's really non-significant. In fact, when I first developed the foam, my first customers, I never thought I'd have a direct-to-consumer brand. My focus was really just developing the material. And my first natural instinct was to sell this to the big manufacturers. And they initially started buying it. But what they wanted 1/4-inch and 1/2-inch slivers of our product. They wanted it for marketing purposes. So they would glue it onto their polyurethane and wrap it up. And they would say that it had Galls and Gotts. Well, actually, that was pre-Galls and Gotts. That was at the time that we were making this organic foam, but we were not certified at the time before I went to the direct-to-consumer. I've noticed in my own experience, there was a point where I would say, I don't need to be certified. I know what goes in it, and we know we're all organic. But it's not as simple as that, because I can be getting cheated by my supply chain. So I realized that when I became certified, my suppliers needed to be certified as well. So that forced them to make sure that they weren't using pesticides, and they had to follow the proper protocols and the custody of the product, from tapping the trees all the way to when it's out our doors, has been fully audited, verified, audited, and vetted all the way through. So that kept my suppliers honest, because I saw inconsistencies before that we were certified, and that made a difference. So again, that gave me, as a manufacturer, who I really should have full control of everything I'm putting in it. But if I don't see all the farms internationally that have really harvested this fluid for us, unless we have the auditors on site and making sure that those fields are pesticide free, that the managing of the products are to standards. There's other things like there's no child labor and so many other things that come with the certification. But ultimately, the primary thing is making sure that it's a toxin-free, certified organic product. If I had my doubts as a manufacturer, consumer should have their doubts if they're not buying it. If the brand and the certification don't match, there's an issue there.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure people can go in and navigate a salesperson who might try to steer you and say, these are all organic. What I'm hearing and what you said is maybe the next question, if you don't see certified organic on it, is to ask what chemicals are in the fabrics of the mattress. Are the mattress companies, do they have to divulge that? Do they have to tell you?
They do not. No, there's no.
I thought you were going to say that.
So that's really your only true test is understanding the certifications that are on there, and then the two that lead in this space is GOLS for the which is Global Organic Latex certification, and GOTS, which is Global Organic Textile certification. So most mattresses will only have GOTS, and the reason they'll only have GOTS is because they'll put an organic fabric on the top, but everything within the core of the mattress is not organic. So they get the right to say that it's a GOTS certified organic cover. However, that doesn't tell you that the fiber batting, I've seen so many manufacturers that have a GOTS certified organic shell, and then it's quilted in polyester. And then they've got polyurethane on the inside and springs and all that. So you really need to take the time to prioritize. If you're going to prioritize sleep, prioritize understanding the components that are in the mattress that you're considering, from the shell to the fiber filling to the core itself.
Okay. So then before we move off the toxic load, I really, again, I've sat with so many patients and detoxed so many patients. I really understand how overwhelming this could be. Like, you come to a conversation like this and you're like, what? My mattress has toxins in it and I've got an autoimmune condition and my menopausal symptoms are off the chart. Like, it's almost like you want to reject it because it's too overwhelming. So 2 questions before we move off the toxic piece of mattresses is, one, is there a life to, like, does it off gas maybe for 6 months and then it's fine? Or do these toxins, is it like a continual toxin that just dribbles into your system night after night? Is there like if I have a mattress that is 10 years old, 5 years old, are those toxins out of it? That would be my first question.
So obviously at the initial stage, it's had their highest intensity, and the actual reactions in many cases are still active and off-gassing the most. It is constantly declining. The exposure and intensity of the off-gassing is a constant decline. But what's also happening at the same time, specifically on certain material, polyurethane, for example, as those toxins are escaping, the product itself is losing some of its flexibility. It's becoming dry, brittle, and it's breaking down. So as you're losing the toxic load, you're losing the benefits, the physical benefits that you bought that product to begin with.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Yeah. Well, there's that. That's a problem too. Yeah.
So that's kind of that exchange.
And then I guess my other question would be, and I don't know if you know, this might actually be more of an answer for me, but I'm thinking again, like, it's really hard to look at 2 mattresses and say, well, one is $3,000 and the other one is $5,000. And the reason I would spend a $2,000 difference is because of this off-gassing. Do we have any literature out there about, like, autoimmune conditions and mattresses, or people becoming sick from their mattresses? Like, has anybody actually gone in and studied the poor health that can be created with mattresses?
So you're not going to find studies on a mattress itself, but there's plenty of studies talking about the exposure to the specific chemicals, to the specific components that are used in mattresses. So when you talk about polyurethane and understanding the breakdown of polyurethane, and you'll have the connection from that. You'll have the chemicals used for fire barrier use and the connection of chemicals with those. And the unfortunate part is that all of these are within legal limits. So what does that mean is that, and the foam manufacturers, the ones who are converting the fiber, they're all using, they're putting the chemical exposures obviously within legal limits, but the legal limits are still not healthy. Right. They just won't, they just won't kill, they'll kill you slowly, not quickly. Yeah. So that's
like the RDA. That's like the RDA, right? This is how much vitamin A and vitamin D you should get into your system. And when we look at those regulations, they're really minimal. So,
and talking about a mattress, so many mattress brands, so many models are all very different. So you're not going to have a study that's really talking about specific mattresses alone. Like when we do studies, we'll do studies which we're looking at everything as far as sleep, REM sleep, deep sleep, heart rate variability. We'll look at all those things when it comes to our mattresses, and we compare them to polyurethane mattresses, memory foam mattresses, other organic mattresses. So we'll make comparative testings over 10-week double-blind studies, but we're not specifically looking for the reaction to chemicals. We're looking the impacts of sleep when exposed to the totality of what those products have to offer.
A really good point, because if you look at the hypothalamus pituitary pineal gland, it's not, that controls your circadian rhythm. And that actually is one of those things where it doesn't have a blood-brain barrier. So if you're lying on a mattress and it's off-gassing, you're breathing that in, it's going into this part of the brain that doesn't have a protective shield around it, then yes, it's going to throw off REM sleep and deep sleep and heart rate variability. And so it sounds like you guys have measured that.
Yeah. One of the things that I would say when you're looking at different price points in conventional mattresses, or conventional organic mattresses, the difference between an organic mattress that might be $1,000 compared to something that's $3,000 compared to something that's $6,000, it's kind of all over the map. In general cases, these are very easy to understand why those differences are. So, like, for example, if most organic mattresses are made with organic latex, and so $1,000 mattress will have a very small amount of organic latex. The rest will be coils. You get into the next level, it'll be more latex, less coils, and it's in the ratio. And when you get to the most expensive, it's all latex, no coils. So that's kind of how the pricing goes. With ours, it's a little bit different because we never have coils. However, we really change our formulas substantially, and we really get into the behavior of those foam formulas to maintain them always organic, but also having a desired outcome for performance. And I think you're actually the perfect person. You've experienced that where, at one point, I think you didn't want to reach out to me, just be busy schedules, and you went organic, but not our organic, right? And you saw that difference, so you can speak to it in your own experience. But that's really, there are differences, and that's what I obsess with, believe it or not, because we have a full range of products that, they'll typically would have gone from $2,500 up to $10,000-$12,000. My energy the last 20 years of leading Essentia has actually been to maintain as low cost as possible. And it's hard to believe because they are quite pricey, but believe it or not, if I followed the way the industry goes, I could just be making a $50,000 mattress easily. And it's our 20th anniversary. And instead of launching something that was super high price, again, I said, how do I take what I've learned, what I've developed, and make it more accessible to everyone? Because what makes me happy is more people being healthy. And for our 20th anniversary, we actually did something at the $1,600 level, but not to get into merchandising and all that kind of stuff. But the thing is, my challenge to myself for the last 20 years is, how do we make this accessible to everyone? Now, obviously, we're dealing with a lot of pro athletes that use our products, and they've always seen us as a value. But I understand for the everyday consumer, when they're going and look at mattresses, it's kind of shocking where the prices are, and it's overwhelming, and understanding why, and it gets frustrating, and people just walk away and just buy anything. But putting thought into what's in it, and the toxic exposures that come out of all the different possible components in there, and not focused on that embroidery that says wellness spa or something that kind of sounds organic, but what's inside really matters.
Right. Yeah. And that's why I wanted to bring you on, is so we can take all the different parts of mattresses and break them apart here. I will tell you that what I love about your mattress, so we actually have one mattress in our house that's all organic, and it's great, but it doesn't have any of the other bells and whistles that your mattresses have. And we'll talk about that in a moment. So I kept having to put like the cooling pads on top and the grounding sheets. Like as I kept learning about all these things that were like affecting my health, I kept having to layer all these things on top of this organic mattress. And then I like hit this under, like when I learned about you had put everything in one mattress, I was like, oh my God, like how much easier is that? So that's one thing I want to point out. The other thing that, and I sent a message to you on this, what I found so interesting is it sort of had the softness of like, maybe like a foam mattress, but it was hard underneath. So when I would get up, I felt like I was like significantly, like I enjoyed getting into bed, but I didn't get out with kind of aches and pains. Like it had the benefit of a hard mattress, but it had a soft feeling on top. Did you guys do that on purpose?
First of all, I loved the message you sent me. It was so authentic. And two is, as you're speaking to me on the message, you're thinking about what you're saying. So it just came out so authentic that way, that you're just speaking and thinking about what you're trying to say at the same time. So it was an awesome message. And because you're in that message, you're telling me how, I prefer a firm bed. It didn't feel firm to the touch. And then I got on it and all of a sudden it's supporting me like a firm bed, but it doesn't feel firm. Yes, that's all by design. That's all intentional. Number one, a hard bed is actually not good for so many things. It's not good for your posture unless you have a flat posture. But if you have curves in your back, like most of us do, a hard bed is not good for you. It doesn't promote proper blood circulation. It doesn't give the proper cradling support for your lower back and shoulders. If you're a side sleeper, it brings you even further away from being good for you. So a hard bed is not right. The problem is that no one's put the time as we have to develop something that has the elasticity to adapt to your curves, but has the high density to continually support it. And that's exactly what you have. You have a bed that feels soft to the hand touch, but when you're horizontally on it, it's fully supportive because the density is there. We actually, our beds are more dense than the standard mattress.
Yeah,
about triple the density of a regular mattress.
Yeah.
So you're getting that support, you're getting that feel, but without the hardness, without the boardiness that you get from what's a firm support conventionally in the mattress industry.
Yeah, it's really unique. I've never been on a mattress like that before. So, okay, talk to me about EMFs and grounding, because that was another thing that kind of, as I was researching toxins, is that we're not just dealing with chemicals, but we're dealing with frequencies. And I think EMFs, some people are starting to understand that. Grounding sheets have become really popular. So what is it that we might need to know about the part of like EMFs and grounding? Because you've built in the grounding into the mattress.
So this is, I guess, important to preface this is that all of my research has been about the science of sleep and moving that needle on REM sleep and deep sleep, because that's the game changer. And it's important to know that while, yes, one specific thing like just toxins or just thermoregulation or just EMFs, that alone doesn't cut it. And that's where, to really move the needle on sleep, our obsession has been to bring all these things together. That's why do we address EMFs? Why do we address thermoregulation, toxins? Because all of it are relevant, and all of it together really equate to proper sleep and performance sleep. So when it gets to EMFs, and it's an interesting topic because the EMFs were something specifically that, again, you can't see, just like you can't see the toxins, but is easily measurable to read toxic load in an environment. Whereas back in the day when those were not so easily available, again, it was invisible. When it comes to EMFs, we don't see them, right? So you get this constant erratic waves that come from cell towers and satellites and mobile phones. All of these signals are coming in a very erratic behavior to come to the devices. It's not linear, and it's not the way our body's harmonic organic wave is, because everything has a wave to it. Rocks, trees, everything has an organic wave, our bodies as well. I had to find a direct link to measuring this before I bring it into a company like Essentia. So we actually connected with a doctor in Switzerland who had really showcased how blood cell behavior behaves erratic, just like the EMFs that are in our environment. And EMFs have changed, whereas 30 years ago, we were talking about EMFs from microwaves and toasters and all your appliances. And grounding worked really well for those type of appliances because those EMFs were coming from the appliances, from your surroundings. And what the EMF grounding pads would do would make sure that went down to the ground and it channeled down to the ground rather than going through your body. Today's EMFs are a little different. They're coming in from wireless devices. They're coming from satellites, from antennas. So those are coming to us from everywhere. So just using a grounding mat is not the same, because now it's still channeling through your body, because it's not coming from the ground up, it's coming from the air down. So you're becoming a channeling antenna to that. So what we had seen is through the dark field microscopy in blood cells, we were able to identify through this doctor is that grounding pads were not doing the job. The blood cells continued to behave erratic during phone calls, streaming, and use of electronic equipment that was everything that was wireless. Reason we went deep into this is because we deal with a lot of professional athletes, and a lot of professional athletes are at a very young age in their lives, right? And that's the one tool that they don't want to drop out of, because obviously you can block away your home from the devices. But our goal is always to embrace technology and not make it impact our personal lives, and that we move forward with it. Through the change in our formula and adding in quartz in our latex formula, we had realized the quartz itself is a mineral that maintains memory and maintains whatever you give it. So the wave that the quartz had was able to mimic the organic waves of our body and become actually the dominant wave in the room. So when we added the quartz specifically to our latex, it became the dominant wave, and basically those communication towers and everything that you need to activate your phone, all it needs is to come through. So if it follows a natural harmony wave to get to your phone, communication is delivered. However, we no longer had the erratic blood cell activity in the blood. So this became that bridge of an evidence-based approach that we are not blocking EMFs, but managing them so they don't affect our bodies. So that's what we've done at Essentia, is not block EMFs, but manage their waves so that they're not impacting our blood cells.
Okay. So, and what's interesting, I want people to think about this. And this, again, when I learned about the toxins in mattresses, I rejected it. And I was like, just get a good mattress. And when I started to unpack all these things, I'm like, wow, how could sleeping be one of the most harmful or helpful things we do every day? So what you're saying is that if you are, like, I'm in a house right now that is right near a lot of power lines. And I actually thought about this. I've been looking out at the power lines thinking this isn't really good to be like, I've been sleeping fairly well, but and that's just one example. EMFs are super invisible, lots of frequencies out there, especially if you live in a city. When you're lying down, those frequencies are going into your body and are those negative frequencies, and they are being absorbed into your body. Is that correct? And that's why if you put the quartz in there, now the quartz has a frequency that's more healing and powerful than the other.
Correct. And it's not that you're absorbing them. We are absorbing them. They're actually passing through and causing your blood cells to behave erratic and clump together. And so if you looked at the blood work, we actually have it on our website. We have all of the blood work showing from all these tests that we've done. The blood cells tend to clump together during that EMF exposure. And the clumping together, what that leads to is less oxygen flow, basically restricting that oxygen flow from behaving properly and naturally. With the quartz, you no longer have that clumping of the blood cells. So that behavior behaves naturally, and it's not obstructing the healing that needs to happen during sleep. It's one of those things where like you were describing, you can't believe that sleep could be so bad. It's kind of one of those things. Sleep is where we heal. Sleep is where everything positive happens.
Yeah.
In not the right environment, some positive healing happens, but not where it needs to be or it should be.
Yeah.
I've noticed those because we started this company working for people who were ill and challenged and facing, their biggest health challenges. And it was easy for us to see and understand what worked, what didn't work. Today, we work both with them, but we also work with pro athletes, and we learn from them as well because they're very much in tune and in touch with their bodies and how they're performing. So it's all about thriving and pushing the needle on how well we can do, how much better we can make sleep. And often we've seen it's how we push the needle to getting more REM sleep, more deep sleep. And if we increase the percentage of those two, and again, achieving this through eliminating toxins, eliminating the impacts of EMFs, we really see a huge change, and it's a game changer. And you just become so much better at life when you sleep better.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's, I've always been an incredible sleeper. Like, you give me like 2-hour break and I'm like, I'm going to go take a nap. In fact, even in my practice, I would see patients in the morning. I'd go home. I would literally work out, and then I would get in my bed and I would take a 20-minute nap, and then I'd go back in the afternoon. And so what ended up happening is that I just started to grab sleep wherever I could, and I loved sleep. And then I hit perimenopause, and I hit my 40s, and I couldn't sleep. And it was so frustrating because I didn't have that tool that I so desperately wanted. So do you have like I'm sure you have plenty of stories, but do you have measurements outside of HRV, total sleep, REM sleep, deep sleep? I know everybody's going to want some kind of guarantee that, like, hey, if I get on this mattress, life is going to be great. But if we look at the mattress as a healing tool, that's what I hear you saying, is the mattress should be a healing tool. Then what do we know outside of our own symptomatology is healing while we're sleeping using the Essentia mattress?
Well, the beauty of these days is that we all get to have trackers, so you can actually measure this. So what we've done, and what you can see on our site, is we did a 10-week study with 75 pro athletes. It was a double-blind study, and through basically seeing different they happen to all be athletes. That's what they had in common. We just felt that was the study that we were putting together. But from different genders to different ages to different lifestyles, because everyone had a different routine of that you have our super athletes that are committed to sleep and committed to eating well and committed to everything they do in their sleep hygiene, to others who are still going out and drinking and doing so. We really got to see that every single player that were on the Essentia mattresses all had minimum 20 and up to 60% improvement in deep sleep and REM sleep. So we know, and when we did those tests a few years back, we immediately put quartz in everything. And I'm kind of an extremist that way. When I see something moves the needle, I make sure that our whole collection, we're not about good, better, best merchandise. We're committed to wellness, and we're that before a mattress company. We're a sleep wellness company, and so that got integrated in the line. And soon after that, we're getting our customers that are reaching back out to us and say, "Hey, we've been tracking our sleep. I've improved my REM. I've improved my deep." They're seeing the differences. So we know that everything we do improves sleep, and the outcomes in your recovery, in your life, in your both mental and physical, will be improved because of it. It's just, it's an absolute, the only way we won't change is if you've gone from our old mattress to our new mattress. Same technology, that won't be moving the needle. But ultimately, we know that if you take care of all these segments, from toxins to EMFs to body's natural thermal regulation, to posture support. And we're taking care of all these things simultaneous at the same time. We will be improving sleep. Then we get to another level when we talk about specific coaching. Like, for example, we have some athletes that changed from, they were retired, became premenopausal, and all of a sudden they were getting sleep interruptions. So now we went to somewhere else. They've already got the ultimate tool for sleep. So how can I help them in some sleep coaching? What can we do differently? And what I would tell them is, obviously the drop in estrogen levels interrupt the REM sleep, because estrogen helps with REM sleep, which is one of the things we're always trying to increase. So what I would tell them is, okay, well, let's change some of the habits. Make sure that you're following your schedule to a T, because your internal clock follows that schedule. Let's back up eating, and instead of 3 hours before sleep, let's not eat 4 hours before sleep. Again, everything to try to help with a healthy sleep. Exposure to light help trigger that natural circadian rhythm. So make sure in the morning you are exposed to sunlight and daylight. Get into certain routines that can help offset the hormonal changes that is happening. And the feedback has been positive from people that we would give that kind of coaching to.
It's funny. I was just sitting there thinking, I don't even know if there's like a health standard for how often you should even change your mattress. Do we have any kind of, is it mattress dependent? Some break down a little bit quicker. I know this is like a total segue from what you were saying, but I'm now thinking through all the mattresses in my house and thinking, is there like something I need to do different?
So ultimately, the life of a mattress, the problem is the mattress industry is almost like a cushioning industry. It's not really a sleep wellness industry. So your mattresses are not necessarily built to go through your hormonal changes. They're not meant to go through your lifestyle changes. So they're not built for that. They're just built for comfort. And so because they're just built for comfort, they'll last as long as the materials don't break down. So most people change their mattress when it's hammocking, when they're getting backaches and shoulder aches. It's time to change. So it's all physical, but they're not really measuring the performance of sleep. Now, if we've been doing this for 20 years, and we have people that are on their mattresses that they purchased from us 20 years ago. What I would say, if you're a lifer with Essentia, the only reason you have changed is because we've changed. The mattress we built 20 years ago, I would say that today they would be the best in class mattresses, only short of our new mattresses, because we've only been putting quartz for the last 5 years. We've only optimized the thermal regulation in the last 5 years. So you're getting certain benefits today. So a person that would say, hey, I'm looking to optimize sleep. I have an Essentia 2010. What do I expect from an Essentia 2025? It will be different. Not that the 2010 is bad, because we built it with the same, idealism and making sure we built it right every single time.
Right.
But our learning, we've learned so much more. So there is no time frame. So in a sense, what we've built today happens to work for all your changes in life, lifestyle, hormone changes. Just because, in my research, I've realized that is optimized sleep even beforehand, even before you went those changes. What we've done to the mattress, optimize your sleep then. That's why we said, when I was a specific athlete that faced a change, not that she was sleeping badly when she became premenopausal, but she was getting sleep interruptions. She was waking up at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, which never happened before. So she's still on the best possible surface available to her. So she didn't need to change the mattress, but that was like, okay, well, let's try some lifestyle changes. Let's try making a few things to try to bring you back to what you're used to, because again, this is someone who was already prioritizing sleep.
Yeah. And I think that's like, when I look at somebody who's in a health crisis, what I typically do is go, okay, let me look at their lifestyle. And their lifestyle when it comes to sleep is everything from the time they go to sleep to the room like being dark and cold, to looking at like deep, just so the people who may not know that deep sleep is is measuring how much the brain is detoxing. And REM sleep is measuring how much you can integrate new information that you learned that day into your brain. So I think that, and so when I would break that down with people, we would start to see like, oh, your primary way in which your body is healing has completely gone off course. And so putting those pieces back together become really, really important. Can we talk a little bit about what you can expect with pricing on a mattress? Like, is more expensive going to always be better? Is there a way to tell, like, you know, like I'm a wine lover. If I go and buy wine, like sometimes I get tricked into the more expensive bottle is going to be a better wine. And then the more you understand wine, the more you realize, wait a second, there's cheaper wines that can also be amazing. Mm-hmm. Is the same thing with mattress? Does the price dictate what it can do for you?
So it's interesting. I mean, I can speak of what we do at Essentia. So at Essentia, it's specifically correlated to the performance just because we don't do anything for nothing. So in a sense, I'm not putting bells and whistles if it doesn't need bells and whistles. So I'm not going to put something irrelevant, unnecessary in any bed because, again, my goal is to keep them as available and affordable to everyone as possible. So in that alone, you are getting more. But however, I think when people ask me this question, is it all depends how intensely serious do you want to take your sleep. So in entry-level product that we make, just to give you the example, the foundation of it stays true to what we believe in. It's fully certified organic. There's 0 coils. There's 0 fiber batting. We've formulated the top layer specifically for what we call our 0 gravity pressure redistribution transition layer. And all it's just the latex formulation that we've designed and formulated to give a really great support, great feel, and it's an incredible product. So I stand behind that product 100%, mm-hmm. and the pricing is amazing. So why spend more? So now it's how seriously do you take your sleep? Because the next level up, and again, at one point, if I take you back 15 years ago, what I would do is whenever I would develop the next great thing, I would stop making everything else beforehand. And I remember after 2-3 years of really limiting it to the greatest and the best only, we had a customer to call back and said, well, you know, we bought this bed from you 4 years ago. We want to get one for our second home. Do you have that same model? And goes, well, no, we stopped making them because we made it better and greater. And this was everything it was about. And he goes, well, we didn't really want to spend that budget because with every new iteration and every improvement, costs went up because we were adding certain essential oils and certain expensive features in the ingredients that brought that number up. So that's when I realized, well, I need to make some of these iterations available to everyone. But every time we go up, it's because we're moving the needle on something. So when we get to our lifestyle, which is hypoallergenic, it's all certified organic, durable, because our $1,600 bed will last 20 years, just like our $10,000 bed. They're both made dense. They're both made well. So you really have a hard decision with Essentia because they're all good. But when you go up,
I was just going to say, how do people pick?
Yeah, well, they pick on how obsessed they are with sleep. So when you go to next level up, you get to what we call our REM 5, and it's about thermal regulation. So our lifestyle is temperature neutral, whereas our REM 5 allows your body to naturally drop about 5 degrees over 8-hour time lapse, which moves the needle on REM and deep.
Yeah, I just want to say that thermoregulating feature is really interesting because the body does have to drop its temperature in order to get into these deeper states. And menopausal women know this. So yeah, that's really good.
And then we go above from there is our REM 9, which drops 9 degrees over an 8-hour time lapse. So those are the main differences right there. Because we know that those and the materials used for that, because don't forget, what's interesting for us is we're not adding a cooling device to cool you down. Right. We're not adding chemicals. Well, the most popular thing in mattresses is phase changing chemicals, which when you touch them, they feel cool. They react to your body heat. You touch it and you feel a cooling sensation, that's a chemical reaction that makes you feel cool. Two reasons why those don't work. Number one is it requires you to keep changing position to get a reactivation of the chemical reaction for you to constantly get the coolness. Well, those are sleep interruptions. Number two is you added chemicals, which we've talked about earlier, are disruptive to your central nervous system. So we basically go from our lifestyle to our REM 5 to our REM 9, always chemical free, to achieve natural thermal regulation. What does that mean? Is we're only going, it allows your body to expel the heat that it needs to expel. So you're not going to feel cold in bed because you're only discharging what your body needs to. And if you are in a state of overheating, that's when 5 and 9 will make a difference for you, because the 9 allows your heat to escape much quicker than the REM 5. So those are the difference in essential.
Yeah. And here's what I just want to say, because the whole purpose behind this conversation for my podcast and my listeners was, what do we need to think about when it comes to mattresses? And I was in practice for 25 years, and like the greatest mattress that my patients thought was ever created was the Sleep Number. And when I actually went to go look into the toxic load of the Sleep Number, it was really high. And so then I started to really analyze everything we needed to know about these mattresses and how it was the off-gassing, it's the temperature, it's the EMFs, it's like all these things coming together. And I was putting, like I said, chili pads on and grounding sheets and blocking EMFs in my room, like doing everything I could to create the most healing environment for my body when it sleeps. And then when I heard what you all were doing, I'm like, wow, you've put it all in one mattress, which I'm not sure anybody has done that yet. So this is why this conversation was so pivotal to have with you. And the second thing, you've said this 3 or 4 times now that I don't want my listeners to miss. When you say, are you committed to sleep? It depends on how committed to sleep you are. Where my brain goes is it depends on how committed to healing you are. Because sleep, and I use sleep all the time as an analogy to fasting. People, when when they go in to learn how to fast, sometimes they struggle to get into those fasted states, and they say fasting isn't for me. And I always say fasting is a healing state you put your body in. Everybody can find their rhythm with it. We just have to figure out what blocks you. It's very much like sleep. Sleep is a healing state you're putting your body in, but not everybody can sleep. So that was really important, because I think that we have a tendency just to think about how good our back feels or how comfortable it is. But I want people to walk away from this podcast and say, your mattress, your bedroom, your whole environment that you're sleeping in is a healing state. Would you agree on that?
Absolutely. And a few things that come to mind is you're the expert on fasting, but for certain people, fasting may cause temperature abnormalities where they may have a spike in body temperature. So that in those cases, more specifically, a mattress that manages that thermal regulation, allows more body heat to escape, kind of lets you through those dips and valleys of going with some of the healing measures that you're taking, like fasting. And it's not just back and shoulder pain. We're talking about accelerating your recovery time, not just physical, but mental. We have players that, a lot of the situation with players is they deal with anxiety, stress. They have to learn what they've been taught that day. They need to learn plays, and it's the retention. Retention happens through proper sleep. Focus, anxiety is increased focus, and eliminating anxiety happens through really good sleep. So healing is even just healing of the day. It's not healing of only the major issues,
Yeah. So well said. Well, where can people find you? Do we have discount codes? And are there, the other thing about a mattress that I think is really helpful, do you have like order it, sleep on it, if you don't like it, send it back kind of routine?
Yeah, definitely. We've got 120-day trials. I believe I'm sure we have a discount we're offering to your listeners.
I will put it in the notes.
But I realized,
we'll put it in the notes.
But I also realized I put my phone on airplane mode, so she never got it.
That's so funny.
That's why she didn't reply.
We'll put this is what happens when you get two visionaries together that, we don't know the logistics. So yeah, we'll put the discount code
we definitely have sleep trials. We're here because we really care about sleep wellness. So our team is really only trained for that. So they're trained to help you. So anybody who has calls, you chat with us, 800 calls. And obviously we've got loads of information, and all the testing are all on the learning pages of our website. It's myessentia.com. Again, we're here to help. We're not here to sell you anything. We're here to deliver wellness through sleep is what we're really, really committed to. So you won't have anyone pressuring anybody to buy anything ever.
Right. Thank you. Yes. And you and I align on that. I feel really clear that the goal of health is to have great discussions like this and to say, well, if this works for you, go for it. If it doesn't, it's no problem. So thank you for taking on that same attitude.
And every time I speak to you, you're really engaging, and you screwed me up this time because my team is always make sure that I'm looking at the camera, but no, I'm looking at. I've been looking at you the whole time.
No worries. It was a good. You know what? It's so funny because I have that when I don't look at the camera. I look at you.
Yeah.
Because I feel like what's more important is that we build rapport and we have a great conversation, so our listeners can learn from it. If we're not looking at each other, it's all good. But
exactly. Yes.
Yeah, I really appreciate this conversation, and I really hope people get a lot out of it. And where can people find the mattresses? We'll leave links in the notes, but where else can they find you?
Well, basically, we do everything direct to consumer through our website. So everything's at myessentia.com. The learn pages are really important. There's a lot to learn. We even did some testing for the military last year. We've been testing on eliminating mold in the sleep environment, which is a big trigger as well, which is a big problem as well. So we've reformulated all of our mattresses. They were already quite resilient to mold before, but we've gone even further by increasing the acidity levels of our essential oils, organic essential oils that we put in there. So we've taken that to a different level. So yeah, there's so much to learn at the learn pages at myessentia.com. And then it's unfortunately, we don't have showrooms around the country. We used to, but the demand of our product has been all online just because it's been referral based most of the time. We are in certain hotel properties, MGM resorts. They have healthy travel rooms, which feature Essentia mattresses in them. But ultimately, it's through that website that is where they're available.
We didn't even go into mold. I forgot. But just so we can sum that up. If you're in a moldy house, but you have an Essentia mattress, the mold isn't being absorbed into the mattress. Is that correct?
So no, what it is we've increased the acidity level of our essential oils to basically not make them thrive and expand the spores, because mold spores they just grow at an incredible pace. So what we've basically been able to identify through testing is we looked at the mold growth, because it's an external infection. This is not coming from your mattress, but it's from your environment where the mold breaks on. But a typical polyurethane mattress is the ideal environment for mold. The reason why is, one, you've got this sponge. Two, you've got the moisture that us humans bring into it from perspiration, body heat, and everything creating this environment. So one of the things people will tell you right away is, don't make up your bed right away. Allow it to air out, allow the sunshine in, right? So because you want it to be a dry surface all the time. So when we looked at the issue a year ago, we realized that growth of mold spores is exponential on a regular mattress. It's insane. We looked at our Essentia mattresses, and it was about 90% less than the regular, than polyurethane, than the regular mattress. But then how do we move the needle on that? And I realized by changing the acidity of the essential oils we were using, we went from 90% to 97%. So we really were able to make it where mold spores would go on there and eventually die. Now, if it's a true invasion of mold, well, they may win that battle. But our goal here was to minimize that risk, almost eliminate the risk of growth of mold within our mattresses. And I think we achieved that. And again, that was another thing. As soon as I discovered that, I put it on every single essential mattresses because it's just part of good sleeping.
Well, Jack, you did not miss a beat. So I really appreciate the incredible thoroughness that you have approached one of the greatest healing containers, which is our sleep and our bedroom. So thank you for all of that. And we'll leave links to everything and keep doing amazing work with helping people sleep and heal. I really, really appreciate what you all are up to.
Thank you. You are always easy and awesome to talk to. I look forward to reconnecting with you live. Our paths will cross, I'm sure, sooner than later.
They will cross. Yeah. Amazing.
All right. Be well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.